Welcome to Aural Hygiene. It's the podcast where we talk about educational films, experimental caught films, interesting documentaries. This is Matt here. With me today is Scott Atkinson. Hello, Scott Atkinson.
Greetings, one and all. Hi there, Matt. How
Should I
is it?
Should I use your full name, like whenever I refer to you?
Yeah. No worries.
Do you have a Twitter? Do you have a Twitter account?
I am Twitter challenged. But,
okay, because you could make your Twitter account like @Scottkinson. That'd be kind of quick.
Yeah, a little bit sort of Hitchhiker Guides to the Galaxy-esque, you know. So like Trisha McMillan, Trillion, and
Right.
yeah, that sort of stuff.
That just occurred to me. You have such a name that would benefit from a Twitter account. I mean, people should probably stay off Twitter at this point. I'm just saying that it's built for that, you know.
Yeah.
Today's film, anyway, is LSD-25, which is, you know, straight up 1967 stuff, you know, right in the summer of love. So Scott, can you give us the 4 or 5, you know, sentence TV guide synopsis of this one?
Yes. Well, I mean, 1967, an interesting time. Sort of the backdrop, as you said, you know, the backdrop was sort of human beings, Golden Gate Park, and Cambodian Civil War was kicking off with race riots in the US, and Six-Day War begins, and a lot of operations in Vietnam. So, you know, the war machine was raging, and then we have LSD-25.
I was going to say none of that's in the film.
Things. No, but I mean, it's an interesting backdrop. I mean, I think, you know, we can't take, you know, the context out of things. So, I mean, yeah, this was definitely it's a definitely interesting bum trip full of quote unquote after flashes narrated by the spirit of LSD in first person, full of hypocritical mixed messages. So just be like Alice and go down that rabbit hole and find out if it's a trip or a trap, maybe both.
I think that's a different film, but yeah.
yeah.
No, I think
you're making it, man.
I think there is a film called LSD Trip or Trap. That's my point. You know,
they do quote that, or they do use that phrase. I'm going to say they do use that phrase in this.
That could be because we already did Insight or Insanity on this podcast.
Maybe they're sort of plagiarizing off each other. You know, it's could be a bit of a trope for the time. You know, it's a trip or a trap, man.
It's a battle of the educational film stars, you know, Anchorman style.
Yeah, just with your T-shades on, you know, and
a trident.
That's right, and a little bit of shade to cover your third eye as you know, stroll around Hyde-Ashbury.
You say it's narrated by the spirit of LSD, where my take is like, I was just like, LSD is narrating this, man.
Yeah, technically, yeah, yes.
Okay.
It's interesting too. It's quite snippy. I mean, it's got all the sorts of, I guess, the range of personalities as a human might, but I don't know if we use in our daily vocabulary phrases like, you know, I'm a depth charge for the mind. So
that sounds good. That's like something I want to get into, you know. I want depth.
That's how you introduce yourself at parties, you know.
Yeah, I'm a depth charge for the mind, man. You gotta hang with me.
Yeah, that's right.
I could have been the narrator for this film. Yeah,
and then you've got the song Round, like just after, you know, a little bit into the opening sequences there, and today you're high, tomorrow you're dead.
Yeah, I'm gonna give the tune to Sal Mineo for the LSD Insanity or Insight film. His was groovier, man. This one's groovy though. It's just more like judgmental.
Yeah, I mean, I read a little bit about Jonathan. I believe it's Jonathan King that penned that, and he was a bit of a music maker in Britain, and acquaintances or maybe close with Jimmy Savile. He's got an interesting background.
Your pen's really loud, by the way.
Sorry about that. Yeah, it's not a Freudian thing. It's just I am clicking this ballpoint. I couldn't get my hands on any acid for this, you know. So I'm just.
So you got a ballpoint pen instead, right?
Yeah, I mean, hey, you know,
the tip of a pen, man.
I'm just jabbing myself. Yeah, I'm just jabbing myself. You know,
yeah, I think they meant like a pinpoint, like a thumbtack pinpoint or something. But
it could be my after flash or like some sort of previous psychotropic experience. I've just never.
Yeah, did they just like not get that term terminology in yet when they made this film? Like after, I don't know. I'm almost like maybe we should have been calling these things after flashes, but
Yeah, I think with like if you're going ballistic on a rifle or something like that at a rifle range, you might talk about like an after flash, but maybe it's a flashback to military service. I'm not sure.
maybe it's like Flash Gordon's son after flash. But, do people really have flashbacks, or is that just like an excuse for having a dumb moment?
Well, according to this sort of fear film, I mean, it's interesting. Like LSD-25 was, certainly vaunting itself in a very prideful way, but in other ways, it was like, whoa, my flashbacks can, when you're just innocently driving down Sunset Boulevard, 11 months and 30 days later, you can just have this massive flashback. So
what I don't get is,
sorry, after flash.
You're after flash, yes.
The parlance for those times.
I don't know. Maybe acid does make you dumber. I remember in my freshman college dorm, the code word for acid was like Sid Bear, but it's almost the same word. Like if people overheard you, they like wouldn't notice like any difference in like what you meant to say and what you were coding to say.
Gotcha. Yeah.
You could just,
yeah.
I mean, you just drop the vowel. I mean, it's not a good code word.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. Yeah.
So the movie starts out and of course we're going to get our real perspective from like old white people, I think, going on bitchy rants with the pharmacist and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I guess at that time it was sort of the par for the course socially, but my God, just the hypocrisy. Because, I'm sure they're like puffing on their tobaccos and sort of, fair enough, or, their bathtub hooch and the sorts of, uppers and downers. And you've got the hypocrisy of just bashing on, these young people.
Yeah, I'm just saying,
experimenting.
Like, who stands there in the middle of the drugstore going on rants with their pharmacist about it,
My dad. No, I'm just kidding. Sorry, Dad. He's actually pretty cool. But yeah, no, I mean, it's like, it is pretty hilarious.
Because there's the books like LSD, how can we fight back? It's like, don't fight back, man. That'll fuck up your trip. Turn off your mind, relax, and go downstream, man.
Yeah. Just the hypocrisy, because I mean, these people would, by and large, not always, but be voting for the political parties that support the war machine, which was raging at the time. So these quote unquote like young people would be sent off to war or drafted, things like that. Their crime is to like try to expand their mind or just have a good time. I thought that was it's very sort of self-serving and hypocritical, I think.
Right. So once you're done with the old white people, they are like, look at these weirdos, and they show us like the wizards doing their LSD ceremony. And I'm like, that looks like fun.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure Crowley was up for that. I mean, hey, who am I to judge? I mean, but yeah, according to that acid voice, it was like, like these three clowns from Southern California. The voice sounded like Lotso, from Toy Story. So yeah,
what, like a bee? Like a bee?
Yeah, we can trust Lotso. I mean, he doesn't have any ulterior motives, right?
Sorry, if you're listening, I literally have a Lotso bear sitting right behind me and started waving that in front of the camera.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you can trust a guy with a down home plummy voice like that. He's not going to scam us.
It's a trust voice,
Yeah. I mean, you'd take a trip with Lotso.
Yeah, so like,
Lotso is the trip.
They're like, we're gonna, send you out of your mind. I'm like, I'm an English teacher. I send roomfuls of people out of their minds like every workday,
Yeah.
They don't know what the hell I'm talking about.
Yeah, and the government wanted to send people to the Mekong Delta, so with a gun in their hand. I mean, at the time, it's an interesting backdrop where this was sort of put out. So, yeah.
Well, I guess that's the whole like Apocalypse Now thing, and the reason I like that shorter cut better, the theatrical cut, because it's just like this weird like psychedelic journey. The longer version paints in too many things, so you miss out on that. But
I do like both.
I mean, yeah, I mean, there's a the longer one obviously does the Hearts of Darkness thing or Heart of Darkness thing better, but I just
Yeah.
prefer that shorter, weirder cut myself. This one, of course, only has the one cut, but it's at a trim like what 25 minutes, so that's fine.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely see like an emotional range of, acid,
Because they
speaking
start,
words.
yeah, they start setting like like just like they barely know what they're talking about. They're like, oh, narcotics officers are after LSD. It's like
Yeah.
LSD is not narcotic. Why? I mean, marijuana gets like a weird rap as a narcotic, whatever. But LSD, come on, that doesn't make sense at all.
Yeah, it's like sort of those the judgment of like the dope fiends, sort of the Hunter S. Thompson sort of language, the paranoia about the bum trip they're on.
And yeah, they show you all the bum trips, and it's like, well, you just have to consider that set and setting. I mean, you can rake Leary over whatever coals you want to, but obviously the guy was knowledgeable in a few things. So if you're deciding to do this in some horrible situation where you're not in your right mind to start with, yeah, of course it's going to go bad.
And on the issue of how would I say it, like hypocrisy again, at a little bit earlier, it's like from the mid 50s, like Operation Midnight Climax. So, which was testing, like in the US, testing LSD and its effects on unsuspecting citizens. I think it was done in safe houses, but they were on unconsenting citizens of, the US, and they were dosed and they were monitored behind a one-way glass, and people died from this. They were, I think, subliminally told to do certain things, to see, I guess, whether they're susceptible to, be able to be mind controlled, and, for example, to kill someone or do some malicious damage. And this was going down right until the, I guess, 60s. So
Apparently, they had toilets on the other side of that glass too, so they could not have to get up and stop watching the LSD raging sex.
tasteful, yeah. I use a pea bottle myself, but I mean, to have that budget, I mean, yeah, you have to make do with what you got, I guess.
I put an internet in because they're like, oh, some of this stuff's made in shitty labs, which is true. But I noticed this time in particular, they're showing the lab, and the thing that makes it really look shitty is the fact there's like a toilet in the background. It's like, well, yeah, you of course it looks crappy when like half the shot's a toilet. That literally would make something look crappy,
Yeah, it was funny too, because like the sort of the tone of the the LSD there, it was sort of like condemning these sort of like these people that do that. It was like a amateur acid made in amateur labs by amateur chemists.
Come on, if you were LSD, that'd piss you off. You'd be like, these fakers, they're not doing it right.
Opposed to the professionals, yeah. But maybe the amateur stuff's good. I'm not sure, but anyway.
No, I would certainly.
I just found the tone really. It was very amusing. I had a good chuckle about that. It was really
it's fun. Like, why not just make it legal and make it in proper labs then? Hey. That's a weird thing, because I mean, in the 50s to 60s, it was like on the forefront of psychological research, and then 1970 it just got like straight up cut off. Like a lot of people, up and coming people, like made their name doing this research, and suddenly they were kind of like put on the shit list just for the fact that they'd been like doing this research, or they had to disbar it as hard as they could.
Yeah, I guess it's always that sort of like at least in our sort of times, and until fairly recently, asking those sort of questions and questioning our official narratives kind of gets you socially sanctioned, because you're asking questions a shaman would, what is reality, and this sort of machine we're all serving, and or not really, but pretending to be going through the motions of serving. Yeah, it's interesting.
Then they want you to burn some of your books, so to speak, talking about people flying out windows, which is mostly, I mean, that's not like they're just like, oh,
Yeah.
people do it. It's not really documented. The only real documented case of that would be Frank Olson, who was
Olsen, yeah.
more or less set up to jump out that window.
Yeah, that's yeah.
That has that. There's some shenanigans there that have nothing to do with
I
psychedelics.
think his family's received an apology from whoever the powers that shouldn't be.
Sorry I killed your dad.
Yeah.
Is that good enough?
Yeah, speaking of books, actually, I did notice in this short film, there was a pretty fun comic book title. It's during that like LSD sort of fear-mongering thing with these lurid LSD titles. One of them was like on a comic book. So LSD man monster runs amok in bold type, destroys entire city. That's the sort of thing I wish I'd read.
I mean, could you do that, or you could be taken up by the UFOs and be told about love and light and that we're all one, going on a Bill Hicks rant or something?
Yeah. Yeah. But the sort of the Hal personality and sort of tone there was kind of interesting. So looking on us mortals with a sort of bit of contempt, but also piquing the curiosity too, because for a few of us out there, I mean, it's just that's something we're going to do in terms of.
I mean, this is pointing out the people that feel like they need to do it, to be hip or something, I guess, right? Because people are searching or something. Maybe, again, setting, having the right intention, trying to go to the right place, using a tool. That's one thing, like frat boy party, and we're all going to trip out. Yeah, that's probably not a good idea.
Yeah.
And again, if you know who you are, if you're not like on a like a kind of a happy bent or a groovy bent, you're likely this is not going to be a good time for you.
It's a lot better than Datura. So yeah, I mean, I think it itself claims like I'm not vicious by nature, but I'm not harmless either. So strip away the layers and layers of ego.
That's a tool. That's how tools work.
Shelters us all.
I could have a machete. I could chop off your head with it, or I could, clear out the garden.
Yeah.
So I guess if there is a point of, if this film is trying to go to that high schooler, just trying to, party as hard as they can, okay, maybe it's worth considering like not doing this. At the same time, there's the whole like, was it Huxley or maybe it was even Leary, just like, oh yeah, artists and the elite should do this, but it's like, I don't know, there's that's going too far the other way. There should be some personal choice involved.
Yeah. I mean, it's an age-old thing. You sort of raised in a society which technically should, nurture us all, but it's natural, I guess, to sort of question, some of the rules and, strictures we sort of grow up with, and seek to sort of find out what else is out there and what is actually real. So
now we can't get through this without bringing up the one guy they show you, which is clearly acting, but he's just flipping the fuck out. I'm like, if you haven't seen the film, I know some people do listen and they don't watch the film, but at least find the guy flipping out, because it's pretty. I mean, that I'm imagining this guy probably had a few problems to begin with.
It's pretty realistic. Yeah. So, yeah, the sort of some high-pitched squealing there. It's like, wow, I hope he's okay. Yeah, so,
no, I think he should just squeal until his brain explodes. But
I think the depth charge was dropped. Yeah,
the depth charge had been dropped there. So, and I know there were some California, like chill out centers that would play the Bad Trippers, the Beach Boys' Smiley Smile. I think it's in the liner notes for the reissue of Smiley Smile, a few years ago.
Interesting. Yeah.
It's not like inside information. It's in the liner notes for the album.
Yeah. That's the good old days. Yeah.
And this film,
like,
this film has centers. Yeah, the sports centers, but
like running 24 hours a day and 2 shifts and things like that. And,
well, come on, 4 a.m. prime time for this stuff, or 3 in the afternoon. You really don't know. That makes
stand by. Our operators are waiting for your call.
something they really don't get into here is any like actual, like enlightenment, or I mean, again, taking a psychedelic would be like, it's kind of like kicking the door into the astral. You can take a proper out there. You drop LSD. I guess you're getting there, but you're just kicking in the door, more or less. Because they got the Tibetan monks. They've given Tibetan monks LSD, and they're like, "What's this do?" Like it didn't
Yeah,
do
it's just another
anything
part
for
of the
them.
bardo. Yeah,
Yeah, it did nothing for them. So
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, for people that are doing this maybe without sort of like an experienced guide or something, I mean, having something that's a little bit more informative or impartial would be probably a lot more helpful, because I mean, it's human nature to question boundaries and push back boundaries and things like that. So maybe having a little bit more of a balanced account would be kind of helpful. So.
right. I mean, let's say one thing. If I mean, I guess marijuana in America is legal in a fair amount of places now, but LSD still is not. And the fact is, if you're getting it off the street, yeah, you're likely getting it mixed in with like arsenic or speed or something you probably don't want. So, there is a point to, yeah, maybe you shouldn't buy this off the street, but if you got like a supply from Sandoz Laboratories or something, why not?
Yeah. I mean, humans have been doing this for millennia, so I mean, probably some of our, at least according to folks like Terence McKenna, I mean, some of our finest ideas may come from this sort of ethereal zone, which may be true reality up to a point. So.
I did like the point as well when they're like, you can't buy it from a pharmacy, and there's like some dude in the horn rimmed glasses, just nodding like, sorry, I can't see you LSD. Like someone went and asked.
Yeah, it has a good high school log.
Can you give me some LSD? I don't have a prescription or anything.
Yeah. What's the cheapest LSD you've got? Yeah, I did get my pocket money this week, so yeah.
I mean, there is a tightrope here. Like, you don't just want to be like, acid for everyone, and at the same, and then there's they, again, it's a useful tool. You can own a gun, but you can't own a cap of this shit, man.
Well, I mean, the voice of LSD itself, talks about like it's a incredible world of one's own deep brain dreamscape, which sounds pretty attractive to explore. I mean, I
that's
think
the thing.
there's a part of us we all want to.
They screw up in point by saying that stuff, because they say that. I'm like, yeah, okay. I want to like walk dreamscapes, man. I mean, I've learned to do that on my own anyway, but something that kind of takes you there. That what sounds horrible about that? I mean, there's literal like minutes of this film where if you took out the narration and a few people talking and just ran the film on loop, you've basically got a Stan Brakhage film,
Yeah. When I was watching that, I did feel that those the light imagery down the street, blurring together was definitely Brakhage like.
I think that's the biggest charm of a lot of these drug education films. Like they're like trying to show you the effects, right? And you're like, and even when it's like horrible stuff, like you'll turn into a monster. It's like, this is trippy movies, man. I want to watch. I want to watch this, and you're not convincing me not to.
Yeah, but it's better than the blandness of suburbia sometimes. I mean, hey.
I mean, if you wanted to make like a proper LSD scare film, you just talk to people that are like half whacked out of their mind, those psych wards, No trippy visuals, just talking to them and watching people that have become disheveled,
Yeah, because that was one observation about this film was that you did have certain people speaking, but there was a voiceover going on. It wasn't perfectly synced. I doubt it was like words from the horse's mouth. So, yeah, it's there may be a bit of a distortion of the original message of what people are wanting to say. And then you've got the silhouetted characters. So who are quite amorphous, just talking about bad trips. So fair enough, but they're not really verifiable. So they're just opinions. And they're quite muffled. It's quite hard to make out exactly what they're saying.
Yeah, I think they were paying some of the testimony folks with those like trippy third eye glasses, sunglasses. Because like what was it, like 5 people in a row were giving testimonials? They're all wearing those. I'm like, is that how they got paid? Just talk to us for a few minutes about like your acid experiences, and we'll give you these trippy glasses, man. I don't know. I could see people
quite
going
hot for
into
the
that.
third eye. Yeah.
Not quite as cool as those glasses Prince was wearing the last couple of years of his life, but
yeah.
those are cooler. But it's 60s. They didn't have those yet.
Yeah, definitely beautiful. Yeah.
It's beautiful. The glasses are beautiful, man.
Part of the dreamscape, man. The deep brain dreamscape. Just before the depth charge.
Is there anything else in this film particularly that hit your buttons? Your tabs?
Definitely worth watching. It's an interesting product of its time. I think some of the hysteria about, and I guess some of the misinformation still lingers. I mean, some of it definitely is fair enough, but just the generation gap at the time was kind of interesting with the social.
How much it was like manufactured, though,
Yeah,
like,
I mean,
there's so much of like hitting those buttons,
Yeah, I couldn't find much about the director. I wanted to find out. That was Dr. David W. Parker. But on other credits, he's just David Parker. He's not marked as a doctor, which was kind of interesting. So, yeah, I'd like to just know a little bit more about the motivations and background of this bit. I mean, it's basically produced for San Mateo, California. And,
yes. So I guess they were showing this in the high schools and trying to use this to be like, don't trip out. But again, especially as a high schooler, if you show me this film, I'm like, dude, give me a tab now.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, yeah, it's like, yeah.
Dangers is there. It's like, yeah.
It's quite an endorsement.
I'll take the risk, man. I'm on the road to Tripsville,
Yeah, I could get some amateur acid made in an amateur lab by an amateur chemist. Yeah, hey.
And just as a disclaimer, we live in Japan. There is no acid. We don't do acid here. Japan especially, like, it's not happening.
Not even after flash. Yeah.
No after flashes. We'll arrest you for the after flash in Japan. But
yeah.
We got temples. I guess it's cool.
Yeah. They might have the real thing here. Yeah, but yeah, but I mean, I think definitely worth watching. I mean, it's an interesting sort of product of its time. So, yeah,
I've seen it more than 4 times, so
Yeah, and I've read Hunter S. Thompson's Fear and Loathing in Vegas a lot of times too, and just as it's an interesting sort of juxtaposition, this versus that. And
see, I would say that that's more of an anti-acid film, although they do, bait and switch you for adrenochrome at the end. So there's that. But
yeah.
Hunter S. Thompson needed his adrenochrome, I guess. Where'd you get that from?
Well, yeah.
That's a whole other kind of worms, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, because you've sort of got do as I say, not as I do. So you do have like the voice of acid lecturing people, especially quote unquote young people. And you're seeing sort of like an older generation that basically have their own kinds of vices. So, which was kind of interesting. And at the same time, you've got like various and this isn't just a conspiracy rant. I mean, but you've got intelligence agencies that were using for hopes of mind control, things like acid on unwitting citizens. Like I said, some who died.
Agent, we're supposed to refer to that as truth serum.
Yeah. I mean, truth be said, you're dealing with, the issue of the draft at the times for an unpopular war, and that was raging, in the late 60s and 70s.
Maybe that was the thing to do, like in the 60s. You don't want to get drafted. You just get yourself like tripping out so hard that no one would you can't even make yourself into formation, you know.
Yeah,
You need that ice pick in your brain, man, so they don't want you to on a gunboat in Nam, you know.
Yeah. So I mean, definitely food for thought. Yeah, did anything in particular sort of press your buttons?
Well, I think I mentioned half of those already, but yeah, just the fact these, you know, these drug scare films like show you so much psychedelic imagery. You're like, I want to see that without watching a film. I want to see that through my own eyes, you know, or my mind's eye, you know. I will if you just want to see like trippy hallucinations, I'll definitely give the Mind Machine another plug. That's where it's got the little LED lights that flash into your closed eyes, and just if you want to see trippy geometric patterns, hey, all you need is that. You know, I think the deeper thing with the psychedelic, it's not like I'm going to see groovy shit, but you know, I'm going to like delve into the depths of my subconscious and realize something new. So, and if you meditate and use the Mind Machine, you might get both. So you know, you don't really need LSD anyway. Is it fun?
Yeah.
Sure. Again, Bill Hicks is like, hey, you know, I did a lot of drugs, and well, to be honest, I had a great time. You know. Yeah. Once the aliens have taken on your craft and explained everything to you, you can be finished. Really.
Yeah, I mean, in I guess in quite a few cultures, you know, different to ours, you know, you know, things like a vision quest. I mean, this is just like a modern version of a vision quest. You know, you sort of, but
And usually
you
doesn't make
really
you
do,
vomit
yeah,
or
and
crap yourself. Those are big pluses.
yeah, I mean, or fasting. You know, like just going out. You know, seeking maturity, just going out into the woods or under the world, and just I think at some point in your existence, you do need to sort of stand alone and just be out there on the cliff's edge, so to speak, and be open to experience. But
Again, you
I
could
think,
argue spiritually that LSD is like way too much of a shortcut. Like I said before, it's kicking the door
yeah,
down. You know.
because my point is, yeah, I mean, there'd be guides or like, you know, shaman or people like that had experience, and you wouldn't be, I guess, often thrown off at the deep end, because this is a deep end dive, you know, LSD. So um, yeah,
I
it's
just learned that the minimum security prisons in California all have Indian sweat lodges because it's considered part of their religion, so it has to be there. I was like, that's pretty groovy.
yeah, right on,
I was like,
yeah.
that's you know, I'm down with that. People are like, oh, it's a waste of money in prison. It shouldn't have that. And these aren't the murderers; it's low security, right? So,
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm all for that. You know, find your, you know, if you really want to,
Like rehabilitate
yeah, things like
and sort
that
of
are much better
return to
path.
your center of the sacred hoop or something. I mean, that's yeah. I think the judgment thing, I think, is probably one of the biggest and heaviest trips upon a lot of us. You know, from our society or our
What's
upbringing
a
or our own inner sense. You know, it's that sense of judgment where, rather than LSD, we're kind of judging ourselves very harshly. So,
Yeah, this film's just so judgmental. It's like, well, fuck you, LSD. I'm going to show you. I'm going to take some acid. You know.
I'm going to enjoy it. Bring on the after flash, man.
But
Yeah,
no,
yeah.
we're not condoning that you go take
No,
a
no.
tab to Tripsville. But if you do, set and setting, of course.
Yeah.
But
I
I guess
mean, this is where, like, sorry, yeah, just that's exactly where films like this could be useful. Like, just if you do it, as a quote unquote like young person, just have a friend, an experienced friend, or someone you trust, just checking you're okay. Or this is the number to the what was it, the San Francisco LSD helpline, I guess at the time, or LSD rescue. I mean,
it's like, yeah, be respectful of the psychedelics. You know, is definitely a good message. But
good
just
point.
being in abject fear of them is kind of stupid.
I mean, that's going to make the bad trip right there, because your intentions are set wrongly and it's
Right.
fear based, and yeah, it's,
I guess
Yeah.
I'll roll the bag on this one and just tell folks that this podcast is Oral Hygiene Pod at Twitter, Facebook, all on that. Scott and I make some jams that, you know, if you do happen to listen to them on LSD, I think they should be groovy, and if you're not, they should still be groovy anyway. I mean, I haven't heard them on LSD for the most part. So um, that's at rovingsagemedia.bandcamp.com. I'll spit. I remember in the past I've tried to prod you a few times, and you went on some weird rant that you didn't pick up the hint.
Yeah, I mean, like in this, right? You know, speaking of LSD, they mention like, you know, dealers are like almost in every street corner, sometimes even 4 blocks away. But
I'm like,
we're still
bloody
here to
hell!
find them.
Yeah, it's that easy to find it. I don't know. Maybe it was the '90s, but that certainly wasn't the case
came
where
to
I
the
was
wrong
growing
country,
up.
I guess. Yeah.
I
At
know
least on this
people.
topic.
I know people on, like, you know, infinite searches. You know, it was not within a few blocks. I'm getting back to that college dorm again. Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess I'm going to end today by quoting LSD or respond to Go's quote, you know, which is and I lost my eyes on where there was. Yes, yes, I want to drop a cap at you and join the mind expanding world where colors and sounds and tastes and smells and people all take on new dimensions and new qualities. That's supposed to make you fearful of this? What?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.